As an Esatayu, which is simply an observer of the worlds, I have become suspicious of so-called black conscious people that say, anyone not sharing their beliefs is our enemy. Throughout the young new millennium I've heard too many paint the picture of our enemies with a broad stroke. Of course I know that the wise are merely encouraging people, new to consciousness, to question their lifelong programming. Questioning is an important step in the reprogramming process. That being said, it's also important that we don't add to their confusion. We must share with them the reality and nature of relationships. It's true that so-called Native Americans played a role in the Black Holocaust. It's also true that Muslims, Christians, Jews, Moors, atheists, and all ethnic groups and so-called races played a part in the Black Holocaust. Because the Black Holocaust is worldwide, there may be no group of people in the world that doesn't have blood on their hands. Knowing this fact, one must also realize that all groups have individuals playing a role in the destruction of white supremacy. There are always allies within the enemy group. While this is true, problems arise when freedom fighters spend too much time searching for these abnormal individuals or sects. If there is an ally to be had, he or she will find a way to make an impact in the righteous cause of liberation. You must do your part and allow the allies room to do their part. When you study history objectively and without emotion, you will see clearly that what I have written here is true. The so-called Indians, for example, could be brutal slave masters, some say worse than the white man. While on one hand this is true, so-called Native Americans also married, and procreated with, befriended, rescued, protected, and fought side by side with so-called black people against the European invaders for centuries. Now it must be clear that the language we use to report history confuses the new conscious person. If I say African American, or black, on one hand, and on the other hand I say Native American, or Indian, that is going to confuse the listener even further. I can legitimately be called an American Indian, but I resemble my neighbor who is called an African American. This is simply tribalism. We are the same people being called by different names. But some, not all, of our ancestors were pitted against each other, based on superficial differences, by the enemy of us all. In the 20th century it became popular for so-called African Americans standing up to white supremacy, typically verbally, intellectually, and economically, to convert to Islam. In the 19th century many of the freedom fighters, literally going to war, were Christian. But today, we say, blanketly, that Christians and Muslims are our enemy. Do not fool yourself. A freedom fighter and ally comes in all forms and an enemy also comes in all forms. Do your part to liberate our people, in spite of enemies, with or without validation, permission, recognition, or fame. In fact, fame and recognition can become a hindrance to the cause. This article was written by Daku Akabo wa Akatu.